Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Matava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gaura Hari Bol Gaur Premanande Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pariraj Acharya Sutra Sutta Shrimati Bhakti Ramada Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Go Premanande, all glory Sri Assam devotees, all glory Sri Assam devotees, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayaniridhe. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikir. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 15, Text 1. So starting a new chapter. And the chapter is entitled The Glories of the Descendants of King Priyavrata. Basically describes the dynasty. I'll just read the text. It's prosa. Then we go straight to the translation and purport. Bharatasyatmajo sumaitair nama bibhito yam uha vava kechit pakandina rishabha padavim anuvartmanam Channarya Aveda Samanmatam Devatam Sva Manishaya Papiyasya Kalo Kalpa Ishanti. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued. The son of Maharaj Bharat, known as Sumati, followed the path of Rishabdev, but in the age of Kali, some unscrupulous people will imagine him to be Lord Buddha himself. These people, who will actually be atheistic and of bad character, will interpret the Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. Thus, these sinful people will accept Sumati as Lord Buddha Dev and propagate the theory that everyone should follow the principle of Sumati. In this way, they will be carried away by mental concoction. Purport. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishi. Those who are Aryans strictly follow the Vedic principles, but in this age of Kali, a community has sprung up known as the Arya Samaj, whose members are ignorant of the import of the Vedas in the Parampara system. They decry all bona fide acharyas and pose themselves as the real followers of the Vedic principles. But in fact, such non-Aryans do not follow the Vedic principles. Another group of non-Aryans are the Jains, who are referred to in the present verse. Not only do they not follow the Vedic principles, but they have no relationship with Lord Buddha, though they claim to. Imitating the behavior of Sumati, they also claim to be descendants of Rishabdev. Those who are Vaishnavas carefully avoid their company because they are ignorant of the path of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Krishna says, Vidaischa sarvair aham eva vidyo. The real purpose of the Vedas is to understand me. This is the injunction of all Vedic literature. One who does not know the greatness of Lord Krishna cannot be accepted as an Aryan. Lord Buddha, an incarnation of Lord Krishna, had adopted a particular means to propagate the philosophy of Bhagavad Dharma. He preached almost exclusively among atheists. Atheists do not want any God, and Lord Buddha therefore said that there is no God. But he adopted the means to instruct his followers for their benefit. Therefore he preached in a duplicitous way, saying that there is no God, nonetheless he himself was an incarnation of God. Hare Krishna. End of the purport. Ajnanatimirandasya Gananchana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantigam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Read the text again. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued. The son of Maharaj Bharat, known as Sumati, followed the path of Rishabdev. But in the age of Kali, some unscrupulous people will imagine him to be Lord Buddha himself. These people will actually be atheistic and of bad character, will interpret the Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. Thus, these sinful people will accept Sumati as Lord Buddhadev and propagate a theory that everyone should follow the principle of Sumati. In this way, they will be carried away by mental concoction. Hare Krishna. So this is the beginning of chapter 15, the glories of the descendants of King Priyavrata. And yes, so after we heard about Rishabdev and then Bharat, different lives of Bharat Maharaj, and then Jata-Bharat instructs King Rahugana and the forest of material enjoyment. Now we have basically the last chapter here, just concluding by giving a description of the descendants of King Priyavrata. Speaking about dynasty of Maharaj Priyavrata, we have about Sumati, then we have Pratiha, then we have the glories of Maharaj Gaya, and then we have the glories of King Viracha. It's a short chapter, only 16 shlokas. And then we will start with a description of Jambudvip. And we enter into a long section of cosmology. Then followed by the description of the hellish planets. So I heard several Prabhupada disciples told me that when the 5th canto was published, many devotees had difficulties to digest. First, those who are a bit maybe scientifically minded, then they have all these far-out descriptions of the milk ocean and the alcohol ocean and this Mount Meru. And then afterwards, those who may be a little bit still influenced by their Christian background, then they hear about the hellish planets and they, wow. So yeah, this is coming up for the next couple of months. But here this chapter is the glories of these different kings. And the first 3 shlokas describe King Sumati, who was a son of Maharaj Bharat, and he actually followed very strictly the path of Rishabdev. But he was misunderstood, and some, as described here, unscrupulous people, they kind of imagine him to be Buddha, and in this way are rejecting the Vedas and preaching amongst atheistics, and in this way kind of mental concoction is taking place. Srila Prabhupada explains it in the purport. First of all, Prabhupada speaks about that those who are Aryans strictly follow the Vedic principles. But then in the age of Kali, some people, they reject the Vedas, so they cannot be called Aryans. So when we speak of Aryans, we also need to understand what is an Aryan. Yes, I just said that, right? Yes, yeah, that's right. One of a noble and respectable character. The Aryans are noble people. is one who is very honorable by his conduct, by his qualities. And it has nothing to do with the hypothesis that Aryans migrated into India and then kind of brought in the Vedas or something, which is a theory by Western scholars, which is strongly rejected by actually those who follow Sanatana Dharma. And also it has nothing to do with the racial or understanding of Aryan, which the Nazi promoted. Has nothing to do with that, because also they used the term Aryan. But Aryan has nothing to do with a race. Rather, it's about the character of a person. Someone who is a noble person is an Aryan. So that's important to understand, otherwise people may, Aryan. So those who are Aryan strictly follow the Vedic principles, but in this age of Kali, a community has sprung up known as the Arya Samaj, whose members are ignorant of the import of the Vedas in the Parampara system. So who are the Arya Samaj? I looked it up. The Arya Samaj is a Hindu reform movement founded in 1875 in Bombay, now Mumbai, by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. So it was a reform movement, a Hindu reform movement, Arya Samaj, and accepts only the Vedas as infallible scripture. Later texts like the Puranas, Itihasas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and other scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, they are seen as human works with errors or interpolation, so they're rejected. Arya Samaj, they fix on the Vedas and they say everything else is kind of not bona fide. That's why Prabhupada says what's Prabhupada's words? Whose members are ignorant of the import of the Vedas in the Parampara system. Because the Parampara system, they accept the different, other scriptures were also aspects of the Vedic culture, but they don't. Also, there's strictly monotheism. There's one formless eternal God. They reject image or deity worship, temple rituals. So they're they had a huge reform. That's often happen if there's a reform. They throw out things which are actually essential. So Prabhupada speaks about Arya Samaj, and as an example of a mental concoction which comes up in the age of Kali. They decry all bona fide acharyas and post themselves as the real followers of the Vedic principles. But in fact, such non-Aryans do not follow the Vedic principles. So Arya Samaj are kind of rejected here by Prabhupada, and the next, another group of non-Aryans are the Jains. So Prabhupada rejects the Jains here also. Maybe not the best text for an interfaith dialogue here. I will refer to that later. Look. So, because we have a previous text where some people, they claim that Rishabdev actually was the founder of the Jains, the first Tirthakara, the first Acharya which established Jain. Some refer to Rishabdev. So there is a kind of a concoction, because we understand Rishabdev is actually an incarnation, or is avatar of the Lord. But then they kind of take him as a teacher, and then refer to as the founder of their belief, which is also kind of a concoction according to the Bhagavatam. And then here, the text itself refers that people misidentify Sumati, which was the son of Bharat, as Lord Buddha, which also has nothing to do with each other. Okay, so then so this passage is saying that the Jains claim a link with Rishabdev and Buddha, but actually their path is outside of Vedic fold. It warns that Kali Yuga many such or misinterpretation will confuse people who then mistake non-Vedic teachings for true Dharma. And that's basically what's happening here. And at the end, Prabhupada refers to Buddha, which is an interesting point also, that Buddha taught amongst atheists and said there is no God, and people follow him, although actually he is God. Right? So if you read this text, it could appear that the Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada are quite exclusive in the sense that we are the only path and they're all nonsense, right? Could be understood like that. And it's interesting when we look at there's something like a theology of interfaith dialogue, and there we say that there is three perspectives. One is exclusive perspective, one is inclusive perspective, and one is pluralistic perspective, right? Exclusive perspective means only one religion or one path is true, others are false or misleading. Basically, like many Christians, they will tell, Jesus is the only way, right? And everyone else, is on the wrong path. That's very, especially in Christianity, it's very prominent, unfortunately. I think I mentioned some time ago, I was in Cologne, where there was a Harinam in front of Cologne, in front of the main station and the dome. And then there was another group, they had a small stage, and there were some Christian preachers. They were on a stage, and they were actually singing the names of God, some names of God, Hallelujah or something they were singing. And I told one of the dudes, see, they're also doing Harinam, Sankirtan. It's very nice. So they're bringing the holy name of the Lord into the cities. So there are brothers, we're doing the same thing. I was saying like that, And then a couple of minutes later, one of the Christian preachers actually came to us, and he was preaching to us, what are you doing here? You're of the Satan. You're singing the name of Satan, the Lucifer. I was like, like day and night difference from understanding. Like we just appreciated their kirtan, and they just basically making the point that we are completely off. Because if we don't worship Jesus, then we must be of the devil. It's very simple, black, white. Either you follow Jesus or you are going to hell. So that's a typical understanding of exclusive perspective. Only one way, and that's my way, and everyone else is lost. And of course, that's kind of easy. It provides clarity, strong identity, firm commitment. But the challenge, it can lead to intolerance and dismissal of other faiths. And of course, that's the reason for many conflicts and wars, even wars, religious wars between people. Then there is an inclusive perspective, which is interesting. It basically says, our path is complete, but other traditions also carry aspects of divine truth. Like ours is the best, but others, okay, they may also have a little bit of something, some truth they have in their scriptures also. But nevertheless, we are the best. That's inclusive. We include others, but still we think we are the best. That's usually what it is. And then a pluralistic perspective would be multiple religion are equally valid paths to the ultimate reality. Each tradition is a genuine response to the divine, and that way one accepts that all religious traditions, they actually can help people to find God. So, what is our understanding? Exclusive, inclusive, or pluralistic? What is the best? What is our because it's interesting, like one extreme is to say that the exclusive is one extreme, like we are the only way and everyone else goes to hell. That's super extreme. But on the other side, to say that all the paths are leading to the same goal is in a way also a bit extreme, because that's just not reflects the reality. So an inclusive most probably is the most realistic, honest approach that we have. And of course, in one way, the Vedic or Sanatan Dharma is actually very pluralistic in a way, very inclusive, like everyone, pluralistic in a sense. In one way, we do accept that all different paths of religion, they are kind of inspired by God. And it's interesting, there is an official ISKCON, an interfaith statement, and there is one thing they say, we recognize the inherent spirituality of all living beings and their individual relationship with God, and no individual or organization has a monopoly on the Lord. So there is no religion or no tradition, of course including ourselves and our tradition, can claim to have a monopoly in the sense of, nobody can come to God than through us. Like, even ISKCON is not claiming that if you want to go to God, then you have to go through ISKCON, otherwise you can't reach. That nobody can actually claim that. It's in a way understandable, because Krishna, God is so vast, it's so great, it's so unlimited. How can it be limited to one tradition? Who helps people to reach God? It would be very unrealistic. And we understand that. And in that sense, and also Sanatan Dharma, also the way how Srila Prabhupada presented religion, in a sense that he says, okay, there is, this is actually, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu once wrote an essay on this. He said there is confession. Religion can be seen as confession, a belief system. I believe in Christianity, I believe in Islam, but that these are just belief system, and then usually there is fighting because we have differences, and that also can be changed. Like I was a Christian in this life. I was a Christian. I was a Buddhist, and now I'm a Hindu, so-called Hindu, Gaudiya Vaishnava. So I already had 3 different religions in this life. So belief can be changed, right? But then a bit higher understanding of religion is the word religion itself means religio, which means to connect with the divine. And in that sense, we can see that all the religions are different paths to God. Like when we have the yoga ladder, karma yoga, jnana, ashtanga bhakti, yoga, that can be like different religion can be different steps. So that's another way to see it, religion. But then Prabhupada basically presents that a true religion is dharma, and then Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma meaning the original nature of the soul, like that which cannot be changed. Prabhupada explains, like fire, there is heat and light, that's the nature of fire. Or the nature of chili is to be hot, and the nature of sugar is to be sweet. So these are the nature which cannot be changed. And the nature of the soul is to serve God and to love God. And that's true religion. And if in that sense, this is very pluralistic, like pluralistic in the sense of very broad-minded, very open. Every soul who loves God, that's true religion. But then, when it comes to theistic understanding of one supreme personality and other devas who work under him, then it becomes a bit more tricky, because we understand that that it becomes more inclusive in a sense that tradition has the clearest understanding, and others may also have some part of the truth. Becomes then more part of what we are understanding, because we have a very clear picture of who God is and how to reach Him. And this is also kind of required, especially when we want to protect pure devotional service. Because to say that all religion are just completely equal, like for the Mayavadis, or have you monistic understanding, it becomes easier because they anyways think that everything is one, and the different gods are just different manifestation of the same unmanifested, impersonal. Then you can easily say all the religion are the same, right? Because everything is one. But if you have a theistic understanding where actually one person is the absolute and not another one, then it becomes more specific. And usually, although the acharyas, they present Sanatana Dharma in a very broad picture and a non-sectarian way, but when it comes to define pure devotional service, sometimes they're also very strong, defending pure devotional service. And we find that, we find it in the Bhagavatam, the text we read today, right? The text that we just read from Shukadev Goswami, who clearly discriminates. And also Srila Prabhupada's purport, where he also clearly makes differences between that which is bona fide and which is not bona fide. And we find it also in the teachings of, for example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I'd just like to read this. This is from Sharanagati. And then we have Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanam Bhikara, which means to the renunciation of conduct unfavorable to pure devotional service. And there we find where Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes things that we need to reject. We have to accept everything is favorable, and we have to reject what is not favorable. And here Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you see, Keshava tuva jagata vichitara karma vika bhavavanaha brahma ipekana. O Keshava, O Keshava, your material world is very strange. I have roamed throughout the forest of this universe in consequence of my selfish acts, and I have seen many curious things. Forgetting your lotus feet, I suffered until the moment of death. The suffering burns me with its scorching pain. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes the challenge of a conditioned soul, traveling in the universe, taking many different births, and always experience different kind of suffering. And what happens then? In this helpless condition, my would-be saviors, so-called saviors, the sage philosophers Kapila, Gautama, Kanada, Jaimini, and Buddha have come running to help me. Each explained his own philosophy of sanctification or impersonal liberation. All of them are bogus cheaters, averse to your devotional service, and try to make the people fall. Therefore, they are a source of fatal danger. These barbarian cheaters have set up various kinds of temptation bait for deceiving the soul who are averse to you. Having paid his respects to these cheating philosophers from afar, Bhaktivinoda takes refuge at the feet of your devotees as the essence of his life. Isn't that interesting? So, in a way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks very strong about these other philosophers, just as the Bhagavatam that we read today and Prabhupada's purport speaks strong. Why? To make sure that nobody falls victim into misconception and to protect pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is the path which brings one to Krishna. And it's interesting also in this interfaith statement by ISKCON, the way it's framed, I found it interesting. Let me see here, if I find it immediately. Yes, this is the interfaith statement. In ISKCON, we consider love of the Supreme Personal God to be the highest form of religious expression. And we recognize and respect these expressions in other theistic traditions. We respect the spiritual worth of paths of genuine self-realization and search for the absolute truth in which the concept of a personal deity is not explicit. Other communities or organizations advocating humanity, ethical and moral standards are also valid as being beneficial to society. So that's the statement, and I like it because it makes a clear point that we respect especially, and we respect mostly those who understand that love of God is the highest, and those who have a tasting understanding. Like in there we have quite a pluralistic understanding. If someone has a clear tasting understanding, God is a person, the goal is to love God, and the way to approach God is by bhakti and devotion, probably was always very open. No. If you're a Christian, you chant your names or chant your names. The main thing is to love God. And then, but if something is not theistic and not about, then, okay, we also respect some other sincere search for the absolute or some ethical. We respect that part, but we not respect it so much because it's not leading to the truth. And another thing also interesting here is that although Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls them cheater and barbarian cheaters who come here to cheat and make the jiva fall, and they are a fatal danger. Nevertheless, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what is he doing? Having paid his respects to these cheating philosophers from afar, Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes refuge of the devotees, but he offers respect to them from afar, but he does offer respect, understanding. Okay, some of them are also kind of. It's also an arrangement by the Supreme that there are different philosophies because people have different beliefs. There is a different combination of gunas in their hearts. They have different motivations. So the Lord makes arrangements that there is different kind of philosophies. So in that way, it is respected, paying obeisances. But one pays obeisance from afar because it's inimical to devotional service and it's not what we need or want. So yeah, these are some thoughts on this interesting shloka and purport. Hare Krishna. I'll keep it a little shorter today. Any comments or questions? Yes. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it was a bit a unique purport. Yeah, seems a bit kind of the opposite of yeah. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishigani Taki Jai. Yes, I once heard a story that Prabhupada was walking with some disciples on a morning walk in Vrindavan, and there were some Mayavadi sannyasis passing by. And then after they passed, then Prabhupada told his disciple, why didn't you offer obeisances to them? And the disciple, but Prabhupada, they were Mayavadis. And Prabhupada said, nevertheless, they are sannyasis. We have to honor their renunciation. Interesting, no? So I remember, like some time ago, we had a Hindu conference in Germany, Frankfurt, and I was introduced to one of the sannyasi and he was a Mayavad sannyasi, but I offered my obeisance to him. I'm remembering this pastime, like in a sense, Prabhupada. So, from a philosophical point of view, we are very clear, and as I mentioned, in order to protect pure devotional service and to make sure that the innocent conditioned soul don't get confused, we have to speak strong and clearly discriminating between what is leading one to Krishna and what is a misconception. That's the duty of the preacher, to be clear. And at the same time, Trinadapi Sunichana Tarurapi Soishna, even we respect even in the end, what to speak of a sannyasi. I'm someone who has dedicated his whole life for the search for the absolute and lives very renounced and has many good qualities. So in that sense we disagree with the philosophy and we are strong and clear about that, but we don't necessarily have to feel inimical towards the person, or we still can respect the person. It's a nice person. Hare Krishna. You're nice, but your philosophy is not nice. In a sense of, we see some good things and we respect the good things, but then we clearly speak out the misconception. Does it make sense? Yeah. So I think I would say it in that way. Yeah, the Mayavad tendency in our own heart, Prabhupada also with the dress. Yeah. The question? Yeah. It's not that the book is just a very thin brochure. This is the ISKCON and Interfaith. It's an official statement on how ISKCON sees other tradition. It's good, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, can also send you a link. You can find it on. You can even download the PDF online. This was published in 2004 already. Shanaka Rishi was the chair of this. Many contributed: Mukunda Goswami, Hridayananda Goswami, Tamakrishna Goswami, Ravindra Swarup. So all the academic brains of ISKCON, they contributed. So it's very balanced. It's clear about what we believe, but at the same time also very respectful to others. The big question: are we Hindus? It's a controversial topic. I have written a blog about it. I can also send you. We are Hindus and we are not Hindus. Achinta Beda Beda Tattva. In a way, Prabhupada often emphasized we are not Hindus. And usually in ISKCON, mainstream ISKCON, they also often quote this part. Prabhupada clearly said we are not Hindus. And in this way, Prabhupada wanted to discriminate us from the Kaitava Dharma. Because a lot of Hindu tradition is Kaitava Dharma, means cheating religion. You go to the temple, you offer some coconut. Oh, please make my son healthy, make my bank balance, grow. Please help me pass the next exam. We do the ritual, and we believe in Ganesha and Durga, just because my grandma also believed. I have no idea what it actually means. So that kind of Hindu, being a Hindu, Prabhupada clearly rejected. We are not Hindus. What we follow is Bhagavad Dharma. This is very scientific. This is loving God. So that's why Prabhupada very clearly discriminated. But isn't it that Prabhupada also said, we are not these bodies? We are not Germans or Swiss or Indians? No? We are not men and women? That in the same, Prabhupada said, we are not Hindus, we are not Indians, we are not men, we are not women. In the same sentence, Prabhupada would say that, right? Making clear that we have developed a proper spiritual vision and not identifying with these temporary externally things. But does it mean that when I go to the bathroom, I don't identify with male or female? Or when on the let me say on the border they ask my passport, I tell them I'm not Swiss, I'm not an Indian, I'm a spiritual soul. No, if they ask me, I show the passport. I don't identify with the Swiss, but I have a Swiss passport and show it. I'm not identifying as a man, but if there is needed for discrimination, I go to the men's bathroom. And I'm not a Hindu, but if I'm in interreligious dialogue and people ask me about my belief, then I say I'm belonging to the Hindu tradition. And then I explain that Hinduism is a large term, and actually, to be more specific, I'm a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And by the way, we also believe that Sanatana Dharma is the actual religion when the soul loves God, and that's in every tradition valid. So, I can specify that, I can explain. Yes, I'm a Hindu, but actually I'm a Gaudiya Vaishnava, and this is our belief. But to say, no, I'm not Hindu. Yes, philosophically speaking, I'm not a Hindu. Just as I'm not a man and a Swiss. But in the society, we need to deal with people. And they need to be able to understand what we're doing. Imagine, an organization has Jesus Christ on the altar, reads the Bible, and offers prayers and worship, and they say, we are not Christians. No, we are not Christians. You would say, are you sure? No, we have an altar, we worship Krishna, we read the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, we do puja, and we're not Hindus. It's very strange. For people outside, outsider, it's very strange. So we have to help them to, understand a little bit what we're doing. Because if you're not Hindus, then we're just a strange cult at the end. It has a lot to do with ISKCON communication work. At least people recognize that we belong somewhere. And then we can explain them more detail. So, yeah, not everyone will agree with me, but that's my understanding. and does it make sense? Or okay, good. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's a good observation. I mean, we spoke about this pluralistic view, the inclusive view, and the exclusive view, right? These three ways to see. And as I said, in principle, Sanatana Dharma is very pluralistic, very broad-minded. But then, if you look a little closer, especially when we speak of a theistic understanding, then it's more inclusive. But it's certainly not exclusive. I mean, there is no way how Sanatana Dharma can be exclusive. It's just not... In the nature of Sanatana Dharma cannot be exclusive, because Sanatana Dharma is very inclusive. But, and you're right, sometimes we have a little bit narrow-minded, immature devotees who try to make our very open tradition to be exclusive. and saying that only ISKCON. No, only if you're a member of ISKCON you can go back to Godhead. Otherwise you cannot. But that's not. It's not the philosophy of the. No, certainly not teachings of Srila Prabhupada, and it's not according to Sanatana Dharma. It's an Kanishta Adhikari fanatical. Prabhupada said fanaticism is dull-headed fanaticism, and that has no place actually. Yes. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a difficult one. If you see someone is following a path which you personally feel that I think there's a bogus guru, or this philosophy does not really make sense. Actually, they're misled by following this teaching, and some that close to us follow that. How do you see? Yeah, I mean, again, we can appreciate whatever is. There will be some, maybe they're also vegetarian, or they also want to live some pure life, or they also appreciate Vedas, or so we can try to appreciate that part. And if we are able, with philosophy and logic, we can try to explain them. But there might be some other. There might be another path of philosophy that is a bit more inclusive or more helpful. You can try. But it's also interesting that we just studied in the Bhakti Shastra, we studied chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, different kinds of faith, divisions of faith. And there is described, according to the mixture of gunas, people worship different entities, different devas. And Prabhupada also explains, quite interesting, in the purport, Prabhupada says, according to the, how does Prabhupada say, but something like according to the nature of the heart, the gunas will be different, and then the belief will be different. So Prabhupada points it down to I think he says swabhav, what is there in the heart, according to the swabhav of the heart, a certain guna mixture will be there and a certain belief will manifest. Those who are truly sincere and searching for God in a very sincere way, then they should find to a theistic understanding of God, the worshipping Vishnu in some form. And those who are more Rajasic, they may worship some devas or even demons, and then those who are tamasic, they worship ghosts. And that's also interesting, the 17th chapter of Gita. Okay, I think we'll end here. Hare Krishna, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sorry, it was a bit a specific lecture today, but I don't know, the purport was quite specific, so what to say. Hare Krishna.